It was a quiet January morning in 2019 when deputies arrived at a sprawling mansion in the gated community of Anaqua Springs Ranch, just outside San Antonio, Texas. The home stood silent against the backdrop of rolling hills and wealthy estates, its grand facade hiding something unimaginably dark inside. When officers stepped through the front door, the air was still, unnaturally cold. Upstairs, they found 37-year-old Nicole Olson and her two young daughters, 16-year-old Alexa and 10-year-old London, dead. The scene was haunting. The bodies were cold and rigid, blood smeared on the walls and pooled near the bathroom. What looked at first like an open and shut case of murder-suicide soon began to unravel into one of Texas's most mysterious and controversial deaths. To understand how it came to this, we need to go back to the beginning. Nicole Olson was known for her bright energy and infectious laugh. She was a devoted mother, a talented hairstylist, and a woman who had weathered more than her fair share of storms. Friends said she was fiercely protective of her daughters and determined to give them the kind of life she had always dreamed of. Despite two divorces and rocky relationships, she stayed grounded, finding joy in her work and in her children. Her social media was filled with moments of laughter, hair tutorials, and her girls, always smiling, always together. In 2016, Nicole met a man who would change everything. Charles Wheeler, a wealthy, young businessman and former rodeo competitor. Their love story started like something out of a movie. He slid into her Instagram DMs after seeing a post and was instantly captivated. Soon, they were inseparable. Wheeler, ambitious and charming, had built a successful security company by his early 20s and wasn't shy about showing off his success. In 2017, he purchased a luxurious $1 million mansion in the exclusive Anaqua Springs Ranch neighborhood. Nicole and her daughters moved in, and for a while, life looked picture perfect. But behind the high walls and manicured lawns, something darker was brewing. Friends noticed subtle changes in Nicole. She began to pull away, missing social events, avoiding calls. Some said she'd started to seem nervous, guarded, even afraid. A friend recalled seeing her with a black eye. Others whispered that she was planning to move out and had been looking at apartments nearby. On social media, her posts began to shift from joyful snapshots to vague, melancholic captions, little hints that not everything was as perfect as it appeared. Then came the night of January 9th, 2019. According to Wheeler, he and Nicole got into an argument that night. The details of that fight remain murky, but Wheeler claimed he decided to leave the house and stay with a relative in another city. Nicole stayed home with her daughters, London and Alexa. Sometime after midnight, she tried to call for help. Her phone records show 5 calls, 1 to Wheeler's mother and 4 to 911. Only one of those calls connected, but it dropped before dispatchers could trace her location. No officer was ever sent out. The next morning, Wheeler returned home. He dialed 911, his voice trembling as he said he had found his girlfriend and her daughters dead. It looks like one killed the other two, and then herself, he told the dispatcher. When police arrived, Wheeler was sitting in the front yard, crying, or at least appearing to. Deputies later noted there were no visible tears on his face. Inside, they found the grim scene upstairs. 3 lives, ended by gunshot wounds. The medical examiner's report came quickly. Nicole's daughters, Alexa and London, were ruled homicides. Nichols' death was classified as suicide. It seemed, at least officially, that the case was over. But for those who knew Nichol, that explanation made no sense. Friends and family were adamant that she would never harm her children. She adored them. She lived for them. She was making plans for the future. A new apartment, a hair appointment the next morning, and even an audition for London for America's Got Talent. Her adult son was supposed to visit that weekend. None of it aligned with the idea of a woman planning to end her life, let alone her daughters' lives. Doubts deepened when inconsistencies began to surface. For one, Wheeler's story didn't entirely add up. He claimed to have stayed with a relative, but police never confirmed his exact location that night. His truck, phone, and wallet were seized, and gunshot residue tests were performed. But none of the results were ever publicly released. Investigators found no signs of forced entry at the home, which made them lean toward the murder-suicide theory. But others wondered, could someone have entered quietly? Someone Nichol knew and trusted? Anaqua Springs Ranch had tight 24-hour security. No one reported hearing gunshots. No alarms went off. And yet, 3 people were dead. The lawsuits paint 2 conflicting portraits, one of a mother in distress, and another of a man covering his tracks. But the biggest mystery of all may be what law enforcement hasn't shared. The FBI joined the investigation to assist with forensic and a digital analysis. Yet, despite their involvement, almost no information has been released publicly. Toxicology results, gunshot residue tests, and even the details of the 911 call remain sealed. As years passed, frustration grew. The families pleaded for answers, demanding transparency. In 2021, Sheriff Salazar announced that the case would remain open indefinitely. There are too many unanswered questions, he said, and those questions only multiplied with time. Why did Nichol make 4 desperate 911 calls that night? Why were they never traced? If this was truly a murder-suicide, why have none of the forensic reports been made public? And if it wasn't, who else was there? 4 years later, the pain still lingers. The once vibrant mother and her 2 beautiful daughters are gone, and the mansion in Anaqua Springs stands as a chilling reminder of the night everything went silent. Wheeler remains a person of interest, but has never been charged. The FBI has stayed quiet. The families have turned to private investigators, cold case specialists, and even petitioned the Texas Attorney General to hand the case to the Texas Rangers. Still, no one has stepped forward with the truth. Those closest to Nichol say they know in their hearts she didn't do it. Her best friend once said, Nichol would have walked through fire for those girls. There's just no way. But until the sealed evidence is released or someone decides to speak, speculation fills the silence. Maybe Nichol was spiraling, as some suggest. Maybe something inside her finally broke after years of emotional strain. Or maybe, as her family believes, someone else pulled that trigger and walked away, leaving behind a narrative that was too easy to accept. In the end, Anaqua Springs Ranch remains a place of privilege, guarded gates, and quiet streets. But behind one of those gates lies a secret no one can seem to untangle. Was this tragedy the result of a mother's desperate breakdown? Or a calculated act of murder carefully hidden behind wealth, influence, and silence? Until the truth comes out, we're left with a haunting question echoing through that cold, empty mansion. Who really killed Nichol Olson and her daughters?